changing. Everything's happening very quickly. The way we get around in our since I lived in Edgewater the last 35 years, my personal mode of transportation has changed like 2 or 3 times. What's going to happen in the next 20 to 30 years, and how do we plan a major corridor like this to be able to be ready for new modes of mobility in our communities? Demonstrating the quality of life improvement, again, very important, and then holistic recommendations, and really create an implementation plan. The zoning right now is just zoning. Right? It's not telling us how do we get better units in a quicker amount of time in the right place. I want to show an example of a project that the DPD did in coordination with 3 wards, several chambers, and 5 or 6 block clubs. This is called the Clark Street Crossroads Project. Has anyone heard of this in the room? Raise your hand. Okay, it's a stretch of Clark Street from Foster to Montrose that the DPD took a look at with consultants, the expert consultants that they hired, and a lot of community engagement to think about how does that corridor grow and change over time? What does the community need? This is the table of contents of the final document, and you can see how holistic it is. There's more understanding of the discovery work that the DPD and their consultants did, as well as all the research and the implications of that research. There's recommendations and a very detailed implementation plan. We can get you the link of this. You can kind of go into it and see what a plan like this yields the community. And then it really looks at the design guidelines that are necessary to make these plans happen. And the DPD has a lot of those great guidelines, and the city does. So we just need to make sure they're kind of cued to a project like this. So, but I wanted to point out some pieces from their document. You know, look at the public participation. It was about a 14 to 16 month process. I don't know the exact start and stop dates, but it was over a year long. But there were 7,100 project website unique views. That means there were that many different people going to parts of the website and the information that they were publishing to get informed. There were almost 2,000 survey responses. I mean, this is real community input. I don't know that there were 480 workshop attendees, 177 interactive corridor map painting exercises. So it's just, there were a multitude of ways that the community could have input versus looking at a board for less than an hour and trying to get up to the board and put a post-it on the board, which is the process that we've had. And giving feedback on the website. I'll be fair, they give us the opportunity to give feedback on the website. But not enough really discussion and engagement with the community to make informed decisions that we would support something or not support something. These study objectives were real interesting. You know, they were looking at a unified identity and long-term corridor vision. We don't have a vision for the Broadway corridor. We have parts and pieces from very different work that's been done over the last 5 to 10 years. Identify appropriate private development uses, density, and urban design guidelines, and define, this is really important, public realm improvements to express the unique corridor character and promote additional comfort and safety for pedestrians and cyclists. It was a big deal for that part of the neighborhood. Maybe there's different big hot buttons for us here on the Broadway corridor. Their work was this resulted in 3 recommendations: land use and economic development, multimodal mobility, that's that transportation piece, whether it's a bike, a scooter, a car, a bus, delivery vehicles that need to start and stop, and then people that drive, and pedestrians. How does it all work on a street, a very busy street? And then lastly, the public realm activation, public spaces, streetscape, identity. Where do you have an event on a street? How do you park in the neighborhood? These are very important things to think about. The work that they did yielded an interesting concept where they looked at what they discovered in the discovery work is that the street wasn't one thing. It had to have a north, a mid, and a south perspective based on the existing conditions that were happening in that area of Clark Street. So the recommendations for density and zoning changes were reflected in the understanding of that street and how it can change and grow over time. The other thing that this work did was it gave development site examples to the community so we would understand real clearly the changes of specific areas in the community. A couple of really great examples. If you're familiar on Clark, there's a Staples and Walgreens at that site of Wilson and Clark. So they looked at how do we do the development that we could do there to get more housing, get the better retail, get Staples and Walgreens back. Once you get the new building in, create a green buffer by the residential and parking in the back. So it really just showed us how that can change and where that type of building it makes the most sense. Then there's another example here at Clark and Ainsley, which has a historic building, and it showed an example of how you can keep that historic facade, build behind it, create some public space next to it, and really create an amazing condition for that area of Clark Street. Last couple slides here. So on the left is really that kind of the ideal multimodal mobility concept and how it all comes together on a street. On the right is sort of looking at public realm activation. And again, these are, they say in this document, these are things that they believe that the community has come to consensus with. I mean, what a great thing to have and have it documented for people to see and hopefully for the city to start to implement over time. Lastly, they show a great diagram that shows it all coming together. And this is just, I don't know what this is, Tom, less than a block of Clark. But it shows you kind of where you want to encourage higher buildings, which buildings you want to keep, like this one in blue here, is a historic facade, where you can create some pocket parks, what that greenscape's going to look like, where you can, incentivize sustainability building practices. This is again down at that 1,500 feet above the street level, not the 30,000 feet level. That we believe something like this would then yield a much more comprehensive direction for the Broadway corridor. Okay, I think we're open for some Q&A, and Troy's going to take over.
Just before Troy takes over, I want to thank you. Ask all of you, if you've received a survey, please fill it out, take a few minutes in the course of our conversation. We're going to be here until 3 o'clock, so take a few minutes and please return those surveys back to Sandy over there, and she's got the return box in the corner before you leave. Okay, if you cannot do it, we have your emails on your sign-in. We're going to email you a digital version of that to do. So, but we'd like as many of you to fill these paper ones out as possible so we get that feedback as soon as possible. Yeah, thank you very much. Don't leave. This is the most interesting part of the conversation coming up.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Pat. And again, a round of applause for our speakers today. Thank you. All right. As I see the hands going up already. Okay. All right. Let's see. Do we have the topic coming up? Somebody forward it. Yeah. Who's got the thing that they're going to scan? Okay. So how we wanted to do this, because as I saw the hands immediately going up, and thank you for that. Thank you for, for doing that. We wanted to keep the topics to 3 major buckets of conversation, because look around, folks, there's a lot of people in this room, and if we all ask just one question, we'll be here till next Tuesday, okay? So, we put them into buckets. So if the first topic is taller and denser buildings on Broadway, if you have questions kind of centered around that particular bucket, then go ahead. Okay, and I still see the hands going up. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Yeah. Oh, okay, and the other topics?
Yeah.
Topic 2. Read that one together. Should the local community have input into decisions to build taller and denser buildings in their retail business district? So that's bucket 2. And then topic 3 is more study needed? Okay.
If you have other questions, we're going to go through these. We'll get to those other questions.
Okay, all right. So in order to do this in an orderly manner, I am going to go out into the audience to help them ask the question, or if this microphone does not reach far enough, I'm going to ask you to come up here. Okay, up right up here. Okay, all right. Okay, we had a lot of people in the back. Okay, so let's start back there with the guests. Go ahead, stand up, please. Okay, so first stand up. Okay, first name,
I'm Ashley.
block,
I'm
and
from Magnolia, and my big question is, because I share this alley, what about the alley between Magnolia and Broadway? If we have a canyon of 8-story buildings, which is, how will these be managed? What happens to our alley?
okay, so we have a question about the alley. Okay, that's a really good one. All right. Yep. Okay, you want to go ahead and take that one?
Sure. Well, some of these buildings, of course, will need alley access for them. But unfortunately, DPD stopped. They are going to change the street to a pedestrian designated street, but not past Foster. A pedestrian designated street, like Andersonville, you can't have curb cuts. And these buildings are all going to need a curb cut to get to these massive buildings and all their parking and everything. Other than that, they'd have to start utilizing all these alleys for all their access to all these units on there. So the alleys are going to become very important in access and utilization of all these large-scale buildings.
Okay.
So this is another aspect that they really have to look at. Like Todd was saying, there's a lot of aspects to determine.
Okay, thank you. And our alleys are very important to us here in this city. We're not New York. Come on. All right. So I have here, and I have here, and then I have one back there, and then so go ahead and stand up. And I'm sorry, back here in the black. Yes, please.
My name is Danielle.
Danielle.
I live on Sheridan. And with the increased density, Sheridan Road has already gotten increasingly crowded with cars. And with the increased density on Broadway, more of that traffic would move to Sheridan, especially the way the cars are configured in these pictures.
Okay.
Has the city done any studies about the safety involved for the people living on Sheridan and the cross streets, as well as the impact for the thousands of people living on Sheridan Road? Because we're talking about the people living behind Broadway,
Right.
but we're
right.
not talking about the people living 2 streets in front
Over.
of Broadway.
So
And
yeah,
they
so
are also paying for the CTA changes.
yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you for that. Could everybody hear that question?
Yes.
Kind of? Okay. All right. Great. Who wants to go ahead and take that one? All right.
I think I asked that question to the DPD at one of the open houses, and the Department of Transportation has not been fully involved. So there isn't any large, I think they've been an advisor, but they're not fully involved. So I don't think we have any answers on this. That's just kind of what we know. I will say though that the development on Broadway will be heavily reliable on the CTA, right, to get people down and to and from. But car traffic will increase. If any of you have driven on, I'll say, Clark Street, Lincoln, or Western, and just take that street down south to downtown, you'll understand that neighborhoods have gone through this amount of change, the amount of difference there are in traffic and sort of congestion.
Can we ask for a
You
study?
can ask.
Okay, we can ask, definitely, and our alder woman is here, and, you know, taking notes and, you know, and recording stuff, and so it's real good, so, okay, so I did promise, okay, this gentleman here to ask his question.
Hi, my name is Steve Wanchell. I live on Balmoral and Kenmore. I lived in the neighborhood for 34 and a half years. I'll make a comment and then a statement. With regard to cutouts, I mean,
Yeah, you know what, go ahead,
Okay.
since you're close enough.
So,
Yes.
one of my issues is that CDOT does not seem to keep up with all the things that are needed. Someone mentioned cutouts. There's a cutout at a new building called the Heron at the 5100 block of Sheridan. There's no signage, so people park there 24 hours a day. So all of those cutout spaces will be used, and there'll be another layer of people that are on the right-hand lane of Sheridan dropping people off, but it's harder to drop them off because they can't get out of the lane and open up next to the parked car. They have to get out on the street side, which makes it that much more dangerous. There are all sorts of other issues and my concern is CDOT doesn't keep up. The other issue is, I don't know what the name of the ordinance is, but if you are within 1,200 feet of the L tracks, then the development only needs to go with 1/2 parking space per unit. I live in what's referred to as the Kenmore-Winthrop corridor, and it's already incredibly packed. We are dog people. If you walk your dog at night, then you will see people parked in front of the fire hydrants in the middle of the block. You will see them parked in the tow zones at the corners. That is more problematic these days because we don't have much police activity, and so people are streaming through stop signs and stoplights at will. So you are pretty much taking your lives in your hands if you're living in Edgewater and walking around these days.
Okay, all right, thank you, yes. All right, who's gonna go?
Yes. With respect to what you just said about, Steve, with the transit-oriented development, TOD, that was the Connected Communities Ordinance that reduced the parking requirements.
Yes.
For frankly, much of the development in Edgewater is near a transit node, and it certainly starts by reducing the parking requirement by 50%, and it can go significantly lower than that. But I will tell you that is a city policy, and it's a citywide ordinance, and it's something to consider that as the development occurs on Broadway, it will all be applied to that.
It's problematic without any new development. It's already a problem.
So it's,
Secondly, my understanding is less people are taking the CTA now because of the concern, if not the actual amount of crime.
Still take it all the time.
Yes, but we don't have people giving up their cars taking the red line at this
I
point.
gave up my car and I took the red line.
Yeah, you were one of a handful.
I never drove in my life.
All right, see, this is why I am the moderator. Thank you for clapping. Thank you for clapping.
Can I say that, to me, this is an example of another thing that should be studied, though, is maybe perhaps the car ownership rate of the people who are going to be living in these studio and one-bedroom apartments, and where are those people going to park? Inside the building? Outside the building, in the neighborhood, I don't know. But it's something that should be considered.
It should be, and just by virtue of the various uses, then definitely we need to go ahead and study this. I gave up my car also, and the red line used to be, like that was like my thing, okay? But as I've gotten older, I'm like, no. Okay. Okay, plus, I have that one right there. Plus, as the moderator, I'm going to talk as I move here, and if I can get you to stand up, please, and then just you can't stand. Okay. All right, great. Okay.
My name is Karen. I think I can speak louder.
Well, I don't know. Nope.
Okay.
Karen?
My name is Karen.
Okay.
I live on Norwood in the Edgewater Glen area. These areas is one at the top of gentrifying, and I'm fighting overestimated property assessments now for the third circle. What I understand by now, the assessments are based on average market values. So I'm come from that angle. When we raise the market values by making more money on those properties, this trickles down. So this is another concern, kind of, because this trickles down into rents, of course, and we might build some more affordable units, but we drive out people in those old affordable units, because there is just an example from Logan Square, a new developer comes in, renovates, high price luxury, that's what we get.
Yeah. And then that doesn't become affordable either. Okay, all right. Oh, you know what? I had promised back here. Go ahead, come on up. Okay. There you go.
Hi everybody, my name is Dominic. I live in the Epic Rock Club area right on Elmdale down the street from here. I'm also a certified urban planner. I'm really happy to see some people with experience in architecture and a bit of experience on planning here. Would love to see a little bit more experience in planning represented in discussions like this. I'm going to go speak from my own perspective and not for the entire realm of planning, but as a renter in the neighborhood, I've found it extremely difficult to find housing over the past 7 years that I've lived here. Edgewater has one of the lowest vacancy rates of any neighborhood in the entire city of Chicago, about 1 to 2% rental vacancy, which is a bit less than half of a healthy vacancy rate for an area. I've been getting caught up in bidding wars on apartments and wasted over $1,000 on apartments that were higher than the advertised bidding cost because they didn't advertise that they were going to make me get into a bidding war over housing. This is costing me thousands of dollars just trying to find housing. And so my question for all of this group is, if you've looked at the number of housing units that Edgewater has added over the past 20 years, which is what all the data you've shown, and if you have looked at that, you'll know Edgewater has actually lost housing units over the past 20 years. We have fewer housing units than we had before. We've added hundreds of units, but we've naturally lost a bunch as well. And it's because of the slow amount of, it's because of this dragged out development process. So my question is, how can we add housing?
Let's listen to his
My
question,
question to you all is, and everyone is going to be thinking about, is how can we add housing units so that we can get to a healthy economic vacancy rate for renters? So if we're going to continue to slow down the development process and make it harder to build, because we've had an extremely difficult development environment in the 48th ward for the past 10 years.
All right, thank you, thank you. Okay, I know some others don't want to take this. Actually, I think all of you don't want to take this, but the one thing that I do want to say is that, if you attended any of the Edgewater Historical Society lectures, shout out to Historical Society, there was one on Edgewater being a community of choice. If you don't know it, Google it, because it talks about Edgewater being a community of choice, and that's what we are, so we're in demand. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Let me just,
Watch out for the cord.
there's a few different things you said that I wanted to unpack. I don't know, whatever you had to do on your bidding war for a unit that's interesting. Five, what? That's an unusual situation.
What's the last time?
But at any rate,
Not
that's,
unusual.
it all points to this should be looked at, should be studied. I don't know where you were looking. Were you looking at Winthrop and Kenmore? Were you looking on the west side of Sheridan Road? And you say there's bidding wars on Winthrop and Kenmore?
Why are you questioning this? You're not renting.
No, there's not.
Because he's asking a question. He wants to know what the answer is. That makes sense.
Okay. The other thing is there is development that's going on. It should continue to go on. Everybody wants it to go on. And I don't think anybody's saying stop development. But these things have to be balanced.
Yeah, the answer to your question is the east side of Broadway, the 250-foot deep lots on the underutilized sites, there's the answer to mass housing in that area. Totally, no question. That area is a prime candidate for more housing, affordable housing.
And I'll just add to that, it's also the place we can do it the fastest, because a lot of that can be planned developments, which the alderwoman will have a lot of say in that, and the community will be able to get it up to the height we need and get them built quicker. I want to also respond to your comment. We asked the Department of Planning to bring their urban planners to this table, to this panel, and they could not make it. And so we would love to have their participation and their perspective.
And they have done no meetings with the block clubs or residents in this community at all. All right, so let's just understand it.
Okay, all right. We're going to take 2 more questions on this topic, and then we're going to have to move to the next topic, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and give this gentleman, okay.
Hi everybody,
Don't make me regret
my name is
this.
Michael Podgers. I'm a trained urban planner. I was a member of the Zoning Advisory Committee, and I specialize in land use, housing, and transportation. So these are all things that I actually have expertise in. And Jack knows this because he was also in the Zoning Advisory Committee with me, so there were opportunities to bring urban planners to be on this panel. I'm going to be honest. I'm going off because other people weren't sticking to this topic. This presentation has been deceptive and a lie.
Okay.
Ma'am, no, I've had to listen to all of this. The information that is being shown is deceptive. For example, the slide under DPD strategy showed a large number of high-rises as though this is what is going to happen. The zoning code would not allow for that. The other thing is, because the zoning code would not allow for buildings of that height. The other thing is, in one of the images, it showed the canyon of buildings that would be built supposedly on Broadway. That was at the corner of Sheridan and Devon. All of those were planned developments, so those had to go through a process, and that was worked on to get there. What this plan is simply saying, and I support this plan, this is a good plan, this is a smart plan, and it reflects years of effort to get to this point. It reflects the most recent Broadway vision plan. It reflects the need, after periods of time, to actually update our zoning code. There was a mass zoning code change in 2006 that was done under Mary Ann Smith. And if we are thinking about something that's going to be 5, 10, 15 years in the future, I'm 33. I would like to stay in this neighborhood. I see a lot of gray hair in this room. So we are thinking about the future for the younger people in this neighborhood.
Okay.
Now-
Okay.
The final thing I want to say is, the reason this is deceptive is you're highlighting the Clark Wright Revitalization Plan as the type of planning process that should be mimicked. I was at those meetings. The same process was being used at the meeting on Broadway. And the reason DPD doesn't do meetings like this is because it opens up the floor for people to get shouted down and bullied. And like what is happening here now, we're staying in the panel. I'm sorry. This is a deceptive meeting, and it's not reflective of the community.
Bully, sit down.
Sit down, bully. Hey, okay, yeah, we can still get this. Okay, all right. Yes.
And you heard from me, and that is my position.
And you were allowed to speak.
Okay, and actually,
Anybody, okay?
yeah, no. Okay, I needed, name, and do you live in Edgewater?
My name is Michael. I'm a 48th Ward resident. I live in Uptown.
Okay, all right.
I
okay,
said my name
all right.
at the beginning. You all heard it.
Okay, all right. Well, we only have time for one more, and we had somebody back here. Come on up. Can you come up? Oh, okay. All right. Come on. Yeah, you. Yeah, in the back there. Come on up.
Actually,
I knew I was What is it? Yes.
I was just reminded this is a library, so
Yes.
shh. So when you speak in the mic, we don't want it to go all the way up.
Go ahead.
No yelling, please.
All right.
no yelling, promise.
Okay.
So my name is Jackie, and I live in Edgewater, and I live on Sheridan Road. I think growth is a wonderful thing always for all of our neighborhoods. It helps in many aspects, and I think it's nice that you're here and putting this together because it is how we get there. So with all, my concern though would be on the denser buildings as well as just the traffic. Sheridan Road is very traffic, and I'm sorry I came late, but I missed about green space. As far as under the tracks, I feel like with the green space, it's very attractive to the younger people. Park-like bridges, so that sort of like Lincoln Park has to get across and to the lake and utilize it. Has there been any discussion about green space and helping with this?
Okay.
That helps with foot traffic and bicycles.
Thank you.
Bicyclers.
Bicyclers, yes. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you. All right. Quick response to this, and then we're gonna move
Yeah,
on to
there's,
the next
again, that was
question.
not part of the DPD study. This is all about zoning. There is, as you know, the Community Spaces Project, which is under the L tracks running along this entire district. And the zoning, when I asked the DPD members, are they taking that into account as they're thinking about the zoning changes and how we want developments to happen in our neighborhood? They did not take that into account. So it's a CTA project, they're the DPD planning department. So it's a separate, kind of two separate projects.
Okay, all right.
And we would all love more open space planned into our neighborhood and our corridor.
Okay. So it sounds like to me, that we need to slow this down a little bit. What do you think? Okay, and make some decisions. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Should the local community have input into decisions to build taller and denser buildings in their retail business district? That's a long question. Okay, so we have new folks. Oh, I see different kinds of hands up for this one. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna go here, and then back in the back. And then, okay, on this question? Okay, all right. Pat, could you help me out and grab that microphone and get that question, and then we will go to you. Okay. Okay, so while she's doing that, I want to know, Clark Street, we love Clark Street, okay? But doesn't Broadway deserve equal treatment? Okay, doesn't Broadway deserve equal treatment? Okay, go ahead. And Devon, we all need equal treatment, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name's Harris. This wasn't specifically asked the first time around, but I think we all favor more affordable housing. My question is, what is the evidence that increasing density in this manner is going to produce that? And we have not seen evidence of that. The theory is that more buildings will go up and there'll be more units and the price will come down. The alternative is that more expensive market rate units go up and then everyone raises their rates to match those rents and prices. And the second part of this is very quick. Our alderwoman is here. We are going to be watching. A lot of us really want to slow this down and get the kind of process that we have here with really expert, experienced people like we've had on this panel who have not been heard to the general audience. We want a process that brings the experts in where we have everybody talking, and you, Alderwoman, and Matt Martin and Angela Clay need to get up and take responsibility for this in front of audiences, present it